Hello everybody and welcome to the first video in my A+ 220 1201 exam prep series where I'm going to aim to completely prepare you for your CompTIA A+ 220-1201 exam. In each of my videos, I'm going to be giving you notes. I'm going to be telling you what kind of questions you will likely be asked on your exam, and I'm going to be giving you your just a couple of practice questions to test you to see if you know what you really should be knowing on this topic for your exam. So I'll give you the sample questions and the sample answers as well. I'm going to be doing this for you for every single exam objective, and I'm going to be breaking it down by exam objective. So if you stick with me, I'm going to pretty much make sure you're completely ready to go for your exam. I'm going to give you an organized way to do it, and basically stick with me, and I will try to guarantee, although I can't officially guarantee, that you will be walking out of that exam room with competence and confidence and competence, I suppose. And my course is going to be completely free as well. So really stick with me through this free YouTube course. I'll give you sample questions, detailed answers, all the information you need, broken down by exam objectives. Let's get straight to it, guys. That's all I got to say. Let's go. So look, today we're looking at exam objective 1.1, right? We're looking at this one right here, which is given a scenario, monitor mobile device hardware and use appropriate replacement techniques. So we're going to be looking at a bunch of different hardware that pretty much goes in your laptop, really, most of this hardware, if not all of it. We're going to be looking at what it is, what it does, what kind of questions you might be asked about it, and we'll have a look at how we can go about monitoring this stuff as well. So with that being said, let's get to it. All right, first up is battery, right? We're going to be looking at battery first up. We know what a battery is, right? Specifically, this is going to be in relation to your laptop. We're going to look at what you need to know for your exam in relation to batteries. So here's the thing. Every laptop has a specific form factor requirement for their battery. So basically, that means that it's only designed to use a battery that's a specific shape and size. So if you lose or damage the laptop battery, you will need to order the exact same battery for that laptop. So look, it's really well highlighted in this image here, right? We've got the laptop, and then we've got someone inserting a battery into that laptop. And you can pretty clearly see that the gap in that laptop, that the panel that has been flipped up so that the battery can go in or can be taken out, is a very specific shape, right? If you wanted to replace this battery, if this battery stopped working for whatever reason, you would need to contact the manufacturer and purchase the exact same battery for this laptop model. You would not be able to replace a Windows laptop battery with a Mac laptop battery, for example, or you wouldn't be able to replace Windows Model 1 laptop battery with a Windows Model 2 laptop battery, right? It has to be the exact same for the exact same laptop. In relation to your exam, you're likely to be asked something that requires you to be able to identify that. It could be, I don't know, just off the top of my head, it could be something like, Stacy, this is Stacy. Stacy is going on a long trip, and her battery pack has stopped working. Can she just buy a new laptop battery from Big W? And then you might be given a bunch of options to choose from. The correct option there would be no, she can't, because she needs to order the exact same type from the manufacturer, right? That's what you're looking at there. Hopefully that made sense, okay? Now, the other thing is, which this picture also highlights pretty well, laptops have what's called, or some laptops, sorry, have what's called a modular battery. So what that means is essentially, if we head back over to this picture, a modular battery is basically a battery where you don't necessarily have to unscrew the entire case in order to get access to that battery to remove it. Instead, there's generally a separate compartment which you can simply open up and then slide that new battery back in. It's modular. It can easily be taken in and out. And that term modular here is going to pop up throughout this course, okay? The term modular is going to be something key that's going to apply to a wide variety of different topics throughout this course, so keep it in mind. Modular basically means can easily be taken in and out of the device, right? So just again here, we'll go over that. It means that the battery can be easily removed without taking the laptop apart. You don't have to unscrew it, okay? So here's another key component that you might want to consider and you might be asked about for your exam. If, hypothetically, you were taking a long trip with limited access to power supplies. So you're going on a 200 kilometer, yeah, I'm Australian, kilometer, 400 mile, I don't know, whatever. If you're from the US, forgive me, the metrics and the systems don't work well together, right? So if you're going on a really long trip, there's no power points, you don't have enough power banks to be able to last you the whole trip. You'll have nowhere to stop and charge your power banks, for example, whatever. You may want to consider a laptop with a modular battery, because that way you could have multiple batteries that you could just swap in and out, right? You can swap in and out with those batteries. This way you can take multiple charge batteries and change them as needed, ensuring you always have the ability to access a charged laptop. Now there, of course, a better option would be to have like a really, really big charger. That way you could just plug your laptop into the portable, like really big battery charger. You can get them from like automotive stores, but in the case that that's not an option on your exam, right, this would be the next best thing, essentially. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you want to be able to change the battery in and out easily, then you would want a battery that is modular. That's the key of what I'm getting at there. Now, this one's pretty self-explanatory. I really shouldn't have to tell you this, but for the sake of prepping you for your exam, I do. Before changing your battery, you should always be sure to turn off the power, both at the wall, and disconnect the power cord from the laptop. You also want to turn the laptop off as well. Before you take the laptop apart, turn the power off, disconnect it from the wall, turn the laptop off, disconnect it. Just make sure there's no power connections and the laptop is off. Okay, that's the main thing. Otherwise, you'll have something like this happening, and that ain't good for anybody. You'll have to explain that to your boss. It'll be messy. Now, as for monitoring batteries, right, there's going to be a few things here. I'm going to try to do my best to highlight like the key details about what's really, really important. So really, insofar as all of this, it basically comes down to the fact that there are tools you can use on the software side in your laptop to check your battery's performance and make sure that it's still doing as well as it really should be doing. That's more software related, really. That's more like 1202, that's your next exam. Don't worry too much about that at the moment. But it's just good to know the concept that there are inbuilt tools where you can monitor your battery's performance. That's basically as far as we need to go there, really. Now, inspecting the physical condition can be good. If you can notice any wear or damage, that's going to be a sign that your battery's probably not doing very well, right? Swelling's a big sign that your battery immediately needs to be seen by a professional. It could potentially burst and explode. That is something that we'll look at later on in the exam as well, relating to mobile phone batteries. Basically, you want to just be able to make sure, or you want to be able to have a look at your battery and say, look, it doesn't look physically damaged. And also, if you notice that it's holding less charge than previous times that you've used it, like that the charge capacity has gone down, it's not staying charged for as long as it used to, then that in itself is a way of monitoring the battery, right? So that's just some things you might want to look out for in terms of monitoring it. It's pretty intuitive, really. That's pretty much what you need to know for monitoring the battery health and performance. They're not going to get you to like name all the software that you can use or anything like that. Just what I said there is what you'll likely need to know. Now, keyboard and keys. Keyboards are the most commonly used component of the laptop and therefore are susceptible to a lot of wear and tear. So generally, if something's going to break on a laptop, it's going to be the keyboard first. It won't necessarily break like that. It'll just be like the keys will pop off, or you get some food stuck in there, and then you've got to you can get a little tool and just disconnect one key, get the food out, etc. Right? So long story short, they have the most wear and tear and are more than likely the first thing that's going to break. If something's going to go wrong on a laptop, it's probably going to be the keyboard. That's pretty much what you need to know there. Now, in terms of replacement and how it's connected, so most of the time keyboards can be easy to replace, particularly if it's just one single key. Keyboards on laptops are connected via some screws and a ribbon cable. So let's really hone in on this ribbon cable. You can see why it's called a ribbon cable. It looks kind of like a ribbon, right? So very flexible, kind of fragile cable. You can see it again over there. You just need to know keyboards are connected by a ribbon cable. All right, that's going to be key. You could very well be asked about that. They could ask you, how is a keyboard connected to the laptop, through what kind of cable? You would say a ribbon cable in that instance. Now, other questions you might be asked, how do you monitor or repair a laptop too, or replace the keys, right? So in terms of that, It's not too complicated, really. Just make sure that when replacing the keyboard or individual keys on that keyboard, make sure that you do follow the manufacturer's instruction. There are more specifics, like there are tools you can get where you can flick off the individual keys and replace them. You can see that it's got a pretty simple mechanism there for actually holding it on. You can generally, flick it up and clean it if it needs to, or replace it with a new key and place it back on there. But the general thing that you're really going to need to know is just common sense stuff, right? Follow the manufacturer's instructions. There's a lot of stuff in this exam, guys, that is common sense, and you really shouldn't need someone to tell you it. I will tell you just to make sure you know. And there's some stuff that's really complicated and you really need to focus and hone in. My job here is to tell you when it's common sense stuff versus when it's something that you need to put your thinking hat on and really give it a lot of effort. Okay, this one here is just a bit more common sense. Just follow manufacturer's instructions. Now, if your keyboard stops working, you can plug in a portable USB laptop as a short-term solution. I'm sure that's not news to you either, right? If your keyboard's not working, you don't have time to troubleshoot it. Fast, quick, and easy, and relatively cheap solution is to use a USB keyboard in the meantime. In relation to your exam, when you might want to think about that is you may be asked to toss up what solution is best based on the individual in the scenario that you've been given, time constraints, their budget, things to that effect, right? How much time do they have? Are they working on an important task at the moment? What's their budget like? So for example, if you got a question saying, Josh, let's say we got Josh over here. Josh is sad because his keyboard's not working, but he doesn't have a lot of money and he has no time because his task is due today at midnight. What is the best solution out of these options? Option number one is he can go to the shop and buy a USB keyboard. Option number two, he can send his keyboard off to be troubleshooted by a professional. Option number three, he can try to manually troubleshoot the keyboard. Option number four, he can go get a drink of water, right? In that case, the best one's going to be option number one because it's quick. You just go buy one, you come back, you can start working straight away. You don't have to worry about trying to troubleshoot in real time, all right? So that's the kind of thing you might be asked about that. So it's common sense, but you just have to be aware of how to apply it in relation to your exam. Now, monitoring keyboards, a lot of common sense here as well, guys. Like, look, physical condition of keys, check for worn or faded letters, look for cracks or loose keys, make sure you don't have any dust or particles. I am definitely guilty of eating over my keyboard sometimes and the keys get stuck. Just look out for that. You may want to check that the ribbon cable and connection points are actually connected correctly, right? Verify the internal connections, make sure they're all connected. And there are some diagnostic tools, but you don't need to know the specifics about that, especially nothing software related, guys. This is hardware 1201 for the most part. We don't need to know too much about that. Just know that there are software tools you can use. And of course, just your own observation as well is always handy. As you're using it, you'll tell if there's something wrong or not, right? You'll be able to know. Next one is random access memory. All right, otherwise known as RAM. So first things first, before we get on to all the specifics, RAM basically, guys, is just, it's not the storage space, not the total storage space. It's like saying, how well can your machine multitask? How well can it do multiple things at one time? So for example, if a machine has really low RAM, you might open up 2 tabs on Google Chrome and then your machine will start to struggle because that's too much going on at once. You're using all of the system resources. However, if a machine has really high RAM, they may be able to have 7 tabs open, be watching 2 video players while also doing a video editing program on the other monitor, right? And also displaying a presentation to a classroom, for example, right? So RAM just means basically how much system resources are available to dedicate to tasks. The less RAM, the less you'll be able to do. The more RAM, the more you'll be able to do. And that can either be doing more little things all at once, or it can be dedicating all of those resources to like one big thing. So think video games, for example. Generally, you need a bit of RAM because within that complicated video game that you're playing, there's a lot of graphics, there's a lot of things that your computer has to do, and it needs a lot of resources to dedicate to doing that well. If you don't have enough RAM, your computer's going to be able to load like the first 3 meters ahead of your character, and then it'll start to skits out because it doesn't have the capacity to load any more past that. Okay, so key thing for you is RAM is not storage space. It is the available resources that your computer can dedicate and that will determine either how many things you can do at the same time, or are you capable of doing a big thing that requires a lot of resources, okay? So memory, think of it like short-term memory, right? You're not storing it, it's short-term memory. Now, we're looking at laptops. Now, laptops use a type of RAM called SODIMM. You definitely need to focus in and make sure you know that. They use SODIMMs, or small outline dual inline memory module. Long story short, guys, what that means is a laptop, or let's start with a desktop. The desktop will use a DIMM, right? Laptops use SODIMMs. Laptops just use DIMMs. Okay, just the DIMM bit. There's no so. So this is what roughly a desktop would use. This is a DIMM, right? A full-size memory module. Laptops are smaller, so they have to use a SODIMM. Basically, it's just a smaller RAM component, right? So what this means for you on your exam, you will need to know that laptops use SODIMM. So you might be given a question like, Carl is upgrading the memory in his laptop. What should he use? And you might get like 4 options, just for example's sake, right? It might be SODIMM, some other random option, and then DIMM. You'll need to know, okay, it's SODIMM because laptops use SODIMM memory modules. And one way I think to remember this is when you're on your laptop and the battery starts to run out, the screen starts to die, right? The screen starts to go dim. You might be in the library studying, and then you think to yourself, oh man, my laptop screen is so dim now. It's so dim, right? So laptops use SODIMM. It's often modular. These RAM modules are often modular. Remember what modular means. I'm not going to say it for you. I want you to remember what we talked about before. All right, I will say it for you. It means you can easily take it in and out. So that makes it easy to replace. However, sometimes it is soldered to the motherboard, right? So that means you can't remove it at all. Sometimes it can actually be a part of the physical motherboard. You can't upgrade it, particularly on laptops. It's not always upgradable. So that's another thing to take into consideration. If you want the ability to upgrade your RAM, you'd want to make sure that you have modular RAM, okay? Otherwise, if you get soldered RAM, you may not be able to upgrade that RAM. Okay, so for your exam, you might be asked a question about that. Make sure you know the difference and you know that that's something you may want to take into consideration. In relation to monitoring the RAM, guys, it's going to be pretty similar, right? So there are some software things that you can use. I'm not going to get super specific. Just know there are tools on your computer you can use to monitor your RAM performance. You've got the same kind of physical inspections, right? Have a look at it. Make sure that it's all looking okay, the connections are working properly, etc. And I guess if you start to notice that your computer is not able to handle the same amount of tasks that it used to be able to handle at once, or it can't handle the same kind of resource-heavy tasks that it used to be able to handle previously, you may want to start thinking, oh, maybe I should now start to do some of these steps because I've noticed the things that are related to RAM aren't working as well. I can handle less things at once now for some reason. I don't know why, right? It could be things other than RAM, but that could be something that might indicate RAM, for example. Okay, now hard disk drive versus solid state drives, okay? This is gonna definitely come up. I guarantee if you don't get asked a question about this, consider yourself, you basically just got struck by lightning, right? So remember how we were talking about RAM and I said it's short-term memory, it's not storage? This is the opposite. This is storage. Okay, these are different ways of storing your data permanently. Long-term memory. So for your exam, you need to know about 3 kinds of storage devices for your laptops, or really in general. The first one is HDD, or hard disk drive. Now, this is a magnetic disk that has spinning drive platters. So the key thing there is it's physical. It's physically moving. It has components that move physically, okay? And it looks like this. All right, so I just did a Google image search. You can kind of see this picture shows it pretty well. You've got a disk that's spinning. You've got a spindle, like a little needle over here that's reading the data. You've got a lot of moving physical parts. Insofar that you need to know for your exam, it has physical moving parts, and let's start to think about what that might mean for its reliability and performance. So generally, It has a form factor. The words form factors are going to show up a lot in your exam as well. That just means like how big it is, what the shape is, right? Of 2.5, and in desktops, it has a form factor of 3.5, generally speaking, okay? So it is the slowest and least reliable out of either HDD or SSDs, okay? And we'll talk about why that is now. So think about, you have physically rotating and moving components. Eventually, they're going to wear down, they're going to stop working, all right? So what that means is it's literal hardware. It is spinning. Eventually, something's going to give, and that's going to stop working. So for that reason, because it has physically moving components, it is not as reliable as a solid state drive, which we'll look at next, which does not have physically moving components, okay? But before we do that, the hard disk drive, HDD, can be installed internally with a SATA connector or externally with an eSATA connector. We're going to get to those later too, but for now, just know those are generally how you connect most standard storage drives, whether that be a hard disk drive or a solid state drive. Unless it's a particularly advanced type of solid state drive, you're connecting with a cable called a SATA cable, and it's over a SATA connection. And an eSATA is just SATA, but it's on the outside. So instead of having the drive inside the laptop, you'd connect it from outside the laptop. We'll talk more about that later, though. Don't worry about that too much for now. Now, solid state drive has no moving parts and is therefore more reliable, okay? It is silent, it's significantly faster, and has less latency. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So again, I just did a Google image search, and you can see a couple of these images here. This one shows the difference pretty well. Thanks, Peak D, appreciate it. So you've got the hard disk drive on the left with the physically moving components, and then you've got the solid state drive, which has no moving components, okay? No moving components whatsoever. So it's much more reliable, and it's also much quieter too. That might be something you want to think about for your exam. The level of noise as well. And look, the last one, it generally has a form factor of 2.5, and it can be installed internally with a SATA connector or externally with an eSATA connector as well. So like I said, storage drives generally are connected through SATA or eSATA, and the difference there is eSATA is just on the outside, but we'll talk about that more later. All right, M.2. Now, M.2 is actually a type of SSD. It's a very specific type. So it's still an SSD. It's a solid state drive. It's this one we were just looking at, right? It's this one here, the one we were just looking at. It's just a different type. It's a specific shape of SSD. So let's have a little read through and get more specific. So an M.2 drive is a compact form factor for SSDs that fits directly into the motherboard of a computer, all right? So it fits right into the motherboard of a computer. What that means is instead of connecting over a SATA connector, right, which is like a cable, and I'll show you that cable later on, but you don't need to know too much about it right now. You don't need to connect it to a SATA connector. An M.2 plugs directly into the motherboard. It's directly connected. So this basically means it's going to transmit that data a lot more quickly. All right, so it offers faster data transfer rates and improved performance compared to traditional setup-based storage solutions, okay? So it has a smaller form factor. It's a lot smaller. And out of these three, it's the fastest, right? So out of a hard disk drive, out of a solid state drive, and then you've got an M.2, which is just a specific type of solid state drive. M.2 is the fastest of those three. It's also very modular. It's very modular. So it's very easy to change or replace. And what this looks like, guys, looks like this, right? So you can see it's kind of like a long stick type. Okay, and generally you can install this just with a simple screw. So this is also important for you to know. I didn't get an image of this, unfortunately, but just know that you need to, when you're installing a M.2 drive or an M.2 drive, the installation is generally a lot easier than a hard disk drive or a solid state drive. And that is because you just need a single screw to do that. And I think I actually do go through this later on, come to think of it. Here we go, replacement. So I did do it. Scratch what I said before. Look, in order to replace the storage of a laptop, so take it in, take it out, put a new one in, you'll need to do one of two things. Either, just like a battery, some laptops will house the storage device in an access panel on the back of the laptop. So you'll have to unscrew it, go in, unscrew the plates, put the drive back in, and then screw it back into place. in which case you'll simply need to, oh, sorry, no, that's, this one's talking about a modular method of access. So just like you might have a modular battery, you might have a laptop which has a specific component for the storage where you can easily just open the latch, take it out, put it back in, close the latch. It's very modular, right? However, your laptop may not, this is what I was trying to say before, may not have an access panel, in which case you'll need to unscrew and remove the entire back of the laptop, find the drive, go through the process outlined above. So let's have a look, right? That right there, this is a good example of like a modular one. You can see there's a very specific shape cut out and a specific panel at the back. He did not have to unscrew the entire back to put it in. It's very modular, very easy to replace, okay? However, if that's not the case, let's see, is there a photo? This will do. If that's not the case, you may have to take the whole back off in order to replace it, all right? So, but generally speaking, you will just need to, again, this is just a Google image search, right? But you'll just need to, whether you need to take the whole back off, whether it's highly modular, it's a matter of unscrewing. You can see here, the unscrewing is happening. Unscrewing the container, you pull it out, put the new drive back in, then screw that back in, okay? However, with the M.2, or with the M2 drive, sorry, do I have a hard drive one? I don't have a hard drive version here. I'll tell you what, here we go. So hopefully you can see here that we've got, this is like the M2 drive here. And it's installed a lot more simply, right? It's got one screw that they need to screw it in with. They've just got a screw with one single screw. You can just screw it down and that's the installation. So it's a lot easier to install an M2 drive essentially, right? The main thing is you may have the access panel, you may not, but either way, M2 drives are generally a lot more modular, a lot more easy to replace. That's really what you need to know for your exam, okay? So far for the storage drives, what you'll need to know is the pros and cons of each, right? Now, I'll show you a nice little table about that in a second. But first of all, monitoring. There's a couple of things that you can do to monitor your hard drives. Smart monitoring is basically a method that provides you with warnings when your drives aren't really going well. You'll learn about this more later in the course when we get to something called RAID technology, but it's not really something we need to worry about just yet, really. Just kind of priming your brain for that, I suppose. Again, there is built-in software that you can use. Don't need to worry about the specifics of that. The main thing is you just need to make sure you don't hear a clicking sound really coming from your hard drive. That can be really bad if there's a clicking sound. It basically means you need to quickly back up all the data on there and replace it, essentially, because it's going to go bad soon. Usually that's mostly for hard disk drives. You may also want to pay attention to its read and write speeds, right? If its read and write speeds start to decrease, that might be a sign that you need to start to have a think about it. And of course, you want to make sure it's not like overheating too much, all right? And there are some tools there you can use. But for the most part, guys, for your exam, honestly, don't worry too much about the specifics of all that. Just be able to know what the difference is between, where was I? Between these three. Between a hard disk drive, between a solid state drive, and between an M2. So long as you understand the difference between these three and everything we just talked about, and you can think about what the best option is based on a given scenario, you should be sweet, guys, really. Okay, so that brings me to this table, which just highlights it pretty well, I think, what the primary pros and cons are. So you got your hard disk drive, which is lots of physical moving parts, pretty loud. Solid state drive, no moving parts, virtually silent. Look, it's everything we just talked about. So you can pause the video and have a look, but that's pretty much what we just went over. Now you've also got wireless cards. Okay, so wireless cards are, that's better. Wireless cards allow you to connect wirelessly to the internet, and the internet is known as 802.11. That's like the official standard. But long story short, a wireless card is just a card, right? Where's a good example? This one's for Ethernet, right? It's an Ethernet card, but it's a card that goes in your motherboard and it allows you to connect to the network, right? Either wired or wirelessly. There's both wired and wireless network interface cards. They're called NICs. Okay, that's N-I-C. If you see a NIC, that's not someone whose name is Nick. That's a network interface card. Now, this is done, right? These cards are used through something called PCI or PCIe interfaces. Basically, what these are is these are sections or things that allow you to plug in expansion cards, okay? So they look like this, right? You can plug expansion cards into these slots and they will allow you to get additional functionality. So in this case, we would be using a PCI or PCIe slot to plug in a NIC or a wireless card, network interface card as they call it, and get that functionality. And of course, most laptops have this by default. The other thing here is just you've got PCI, which is a type of one of these slots that we're looking at, okay? One of these slots. And then you've also got PCIe, which is PCI Express. Main difference here, guys, is basically PCI Express is just the modern, faster version, okay? So just understand PCIe is the faster version of PCI, and whichever version you're using, a PCI slot allows you to connect expansion cards, and that is where you would use, that is how you would use a wireless card or a network interface card or a NIC, okay? So that's pretty much that. Now, here's what I'm gonna do for monitoring, guys. If you want, you can pause the video and have a look. I really don't think a lot of this is too relevant or necessary. I put it here just to make sure you can pause and read, but I'm going to use my judgment here and just move past that, all right? Just because NICs are pretty simplistic. Now, physical, privacy, and security components. You need to know about two specific things for your exam. You need to know about biometrics. Now, biometrics, long story short, it is basically something that you are, right? It's a scanner that scans your iris, your handprint, your fingerprint, any biological part of your body. Biometrics scans that, and they are basically trying to make use of your unique physical characteristics, such as your fingerprints, facial features, etc., usually for some sort of access control, right? If you want to log into your computer, you might have to do a fingerprint scan to get in. That's biometrics, okay? So generally, it's more expensive than having to use a PIN code, but it's got a relatively high level of security because someone can steal your PIN code, but they can't steal your fingerprint unless they chop your thumb off. Hopefully you don't live a life that has led to someone wanting to chop your thumb off though. So that's biometrics, okay? You'll need to know what that is. Pause and read that if you want. I'm going to try to keep the video a little more brief than I have so far, just so we can stay on a roll. So pause and read. I'm going to move on. Monitoring, it's the same thing. Pause and have a read. I don't think you'll be asked any specific questions about that. Now, near field scanner features. NFC, near field scanner. You do need to know what this is for your exam, and this is going to be covered throughout a few different exam objectives because I'm sticking exactly to the objectives, guys. Now, near field communication, or NFC, make sure you know NFC is near field communication and you know what it does. Recognize it by NFC. You will need to do that for your exam. They won't always spell it out the whole way like this. NFC is near field communication. So what this does is it allows devices to communicate wirelessly over short distances. All right. So generally, you're using this when you pay for something just by tapping your phone, right? It's this functionality that allows you to really quickly transmit data over a very short distance by just tapping. Okay. It can also be used for at the train station when you tap your card. That's NFC, right? So NFC is used for those very short data transfers. We'll get more into the specifics in later exam objectives, but just know that for now, NFC is for those very short data transfers. Okay. Same thing, pause and have a read if you want, but I'm going to keep a move on. Again, pause and have a read if you want. I'm going to make a move on. I don't think that's too necessary in my opinion. Now, this one's pretty easy and simple, right? Wi-Fi, antenna, connector, and placement. Basically, guys, in order to get the best signal, you have to put the Wi-Fi antenna up high. And where is the highest point? It's at the top of the laptop screen, okay? So basically, for this, you just need to know that the Wi-Fi antenna is placed at the top of the display. Okay, that's pretty much it. Now, camera and webcam is the next bit. A lot of common sense stuff coming up here, guys. So look, we know what a camera is. It's built into the computer, usually located at the top in the center of the display. There it is right there. Cameras are at the top in the center of the display, usually come default. If you need higher quality or you don't have an inbuilt webcam, you can purchase a USB external webcam as well. I'm thinking about doing that for these videos because right now I'm using a DSL camera and the battery life just isn't there. So maybe I need a a USB webcam to make these videos for you. Now, in terms of monitoring, again, look, I'm just going to say pause and read simply because the likelihood of you getting specific questions on this isn't really there. So pause and read if you want. I'm going to move on. Okay. I just wanted to put the content there so it's there, so I can say I've covered my bases, but pretty much you just need to know what they are, how to use them, and pretty much what I'm verbally covering here. Now, microphone, another similar thing, right? So microphones are generally built into the computer. Usually it's at the top of the display as well, so it would usually be up here somewhere. And the microphone is capable of recording audio, and you can use it to engage in audio calls. Who would have known, right? Of course, you can improve your audio quality by purchasing a separate external microphone. Mind blowing again, right? I got one on my headset. All right. So again, I'm going to say you can pause and read this if you want to. I am going to just move on because same reason as the last ones, okay? Now, I have some multiple choice questions for you. I'm going to provide you with a question, give you an opportunity to answer it, and then I'm going to give you the explanation afterwards, all right? So let's do some multiple choice questions. Question number 1, coming up. Riley's keyboard has stopped working. Choose the solution that will allow Riley to return to his work the fastest. A, purchase an external USB keyboard. B, troubleshoot the keyboard himself and perform the necessary repairs. C, send the keyboard to an external company for repairs. Or D, purchase and reinstall a new ribbon cable. I'm going to give you about 3 seconds. Pause the video if you need to. You probably do. I'm going to move on. 3, 2, 1. The answer is A, he'll need to purchase an external USB keyboard, right? That is, the question specified, he needed to be fast, all right? So the fastest way for him to resume his work is by plugging in an external USB keyboard. Let's think about these other options that he had there and why we didn't want to choose them. So troubleshooting the keyboard himself, basically, as stated here, it might fix the issue, and it probably will eventually, but it requires significant time and technical expertise. It's going to take a while. So troubleshooting can lead to a lot of delays, making it less efficient solution when you can just quickly plug something in, especially if you're on a time schedule. And the question here said that he wanted to return to work the fastest. That was the key, right? How can he most quickly return to work? C, send the keyboard to an external company for repairs. Same thing. That'll take days, if not weeks. Purchase and reinstall a new ribbon cable. You don't want to go purchasing and reinstalling things without first troubleshooting, right? You'd want to check the connection first. He has no reason to think that's the case. And also, it's definitely not the fastest, okay? So that is why A was the appropriate answer there. Next question. Question 16. Which of the following best describes biometrics? A, the use of unique physical or behavioral characteristics to verify an individual's identity. B, a set of encryption algorithms designed to secure digital communications against unauthorized access. C, specialized software used to monitor and optimize computer hardware performance. Or D, the process of storing and managing personal identification numbers such as PINs for secure system access. Count to about 3, and then I'll give you the answer. Pause the video if you need it. The answer is A, biometrics is the use of unique physical or behavioral characteristics to verify an individual's identity. So look, guys, long story short, you just need to know what biometrics are, what that is, what it refers to, when you would use it. You may also want to think about different methods. Actually, do you need to think about different methods of authentication? I think that comes in your later exams. Just now, look, for now, for the sake of where we're at now, we're at the first exam objective, just think about what it is. You need to know what it is, right? That's the key, really. Not much more for me to say. I just like yapping. Now, next question reads, Alex is refurbishing an old desktop PC. When inspecting the internals, he notices a larger drive with a form factor of 3.5 inches that is connected via a SATA cable. The drive makes a distinct spinning sound and stores data on magnetic platters. Based on these physical characteristics, which type of drive is Alex most likely looking at? A, HDD, B, SSD, C, external eSATA drive, or D, M2 drive? Pause the video if you need time. I'm going to give you your answer in a few seconds. Here we go. The answer is A, HDD or hard disk drive. So look, the key thing here, you can pause and read this explanation you want, but basically the key thing here is, guys, the hard disk drive is made of physical components, as we talked about earlier on in this video, and the sound of spinning alongside with the larger form factor of 3.5, right, gives it away. If you can hear it spinning, it is going to necessarily have physical components. Otherwise, there's nothing to spin, right? So pause and read that if you want to, but I'm just going to give my own verbal explanation, right? A hard disk drive has physical components, right? So he noticed a large drive with a form factor of 3.5 inches and is connected via SATA cable. So far, this could be SATA, that could be SSD as well, but it makes a distinct spinning sound. We know a hard disk drive has a spinning platter, so that really gives it away. There's no other option. So it could be an external eSATA drive, but an eSATA, either hard disk drive or SSD could be connected externally via eSATA. There's nothing in this question that tells us that this is an external drive, and eSATA does not specify between SSD or HDD. Okay, so that's kind of like a trick option thrown in there to throw you guys up. All right, let's try the next one. The question reads, after opening the back of her Ultrabook, Sarah takes a closer look at the storage drive. Instead of finding a rectangular device with visible SATA connectors and cables, she discovers a very compact card that plugs directly into a slot on the motherboard. Which type of drive is being described? A, HDD, B, SSD, C, external eSATA drive, or D, M2 drive? Take a few seconds, pause the video. Answer coming right about now. The answer is D, M2 drive. So guys, your M2 drives, we looked at them before, right? They're designed as compact cards that directly plug into the motherboard. That was one of the key giveaways, right? It plugs directly into the motherboard. It's not through a SATA connector, straight into the motherboard. That made this the most likely choice there. So they integrate seamlessly into the laptop's design, going straight into the motherboard, all right? That was the key giveaway, right? It is not a rectangular device with SATA connectors. That uses SATA, that uses SATA, that uses eSATA, but this specified that it is, she opened the back of her Ultrabook or her laptop, meaning that it was inside the laptop, right? So therefore, it had to be the M2 drive. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. Next question. Riley is setting up his home office and needs to connect his computer to both a wired network for stable internet and a wireless network when he moves around. Which component in his computer is responsible for handling these network connections? A, CPU, B, GPU, C, NIC, or D, HDD? Take a few seconds, guys. Your answer's coming in about 3 seconds. Pause the video. Pause the video if you need more time. Here we go. The answer is C, NIC. So the network interface card, or the NIC, is the card that is responsible for connecting your device to the internet, essentially, right? Our other options here, the CPU is the central processing unit. That's like the primary processor of the computer, right? It handles all the computations, executes instructions from the software. It's like the brains of your computer, essentially. The GPU is the graphics processing unit, and it's dedicated to processing graphics, essentially, right? So a gaming computer is going to have a really good GPU because it needs to process those graphics. And we've talked about what an HDD is already. You shouldn't need me to explain that. If you do, just rewind in the video, go over that section again, or you can just pause and read. All right, guys, next question. We're getting a lot of questions today. You guys are lucky. It reads, what component is located at the top of the display on a laptop? A, wireless card. B, antenna. C, NIC. D, SODIMM. Pause the video if you need more time. I'm going to give you the answer right now. It is B, antenna. Again, the antenna has to be at the top to get the most signal. All right, the wireless card and the NIC and the SODIMM are all part of the primary motherboard. They're going to be on that main motherboard. They're not going to have that wired connection snaking up into the top of the screen. Okay, now look, guys, this is where I give you my plug. If you've enjoyed the format of this, right, basically what I've been doing is I've been talking to my learning guide. I have a learning guide for the 1201 available over at journeytocyber.com. And you're looking at a snippet of this learning guide here. So this is the table of contents, right, of my learning guide. What I do is I've broken the entire 1201. Did I say 1202? 1201 exam. I've broken it all down into the exam objectives. You've got 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and you can see how I've broken it down there, right? But even better than that, over here, I've broken it down even further into the individual dot points. So not only can you break it down by 2.0, 3.0, 3.1, you can also go further into the types and into the dot points. So on your exam objective, wherever there's a dot point, I've given you a specific section of notes for that. And for the entire primary dot point, right, which is right there, for the entire primary dot point, 3.1 in this example, I give you notes here based on every single dot point. So you can see this would be like a primary dot point, and then you'd have a sub dot point. So I really make sure you're not missing anything. And then for the entire, so 3.1, right? So for here, right, I give you some open-ended questions. This is to get you in a position where you can verbally explain these topics, because if you can verbally explain them, you're going to be able to do well on an exam, okay? Open-ended questions with answers to those open-ended questions. But honestly, this is what everyone comes for, right? You've got multiple choice questions organized specifically into these exam objectives. So you can see some of those multiple choice questions there. And then I've got the detailed answers for those multiple choice questions as well, right? It explains why every single incorrect answer is wrong, what the definition of that is, why the right answer is right? And I also give you 11 performance-based questions. So this is just one example of the performance questions that I have for you in the learning guide. So I give you multiple choice questions and performance-based questions. You get 11 in total performance-based questions in the learning guide. All right. Now, I also, it's not just a learning guide, right? I also give you a video on how to 10 times your learning with free AI tools. Okay, so I go through 2 free AI tools, how you can use my learning guide to actually use free AI tools to really increase your learning. So if you're stuck on something, I show you exactly how you can, like while you're going for a walk, you can actually get pinpoint accuracy information. You don't have to try to search on YouTube and find the perfect podcast about the specific topic and hoping there's some snippets of information in there. You can get pinpoint accurate information on the exact topic you're struggling with. I show you how to do that in as a free video that's included with the learning guide package. And on top of that, I also give you detailed techniques of how to actually go about answering multiple choice questions, right? Because whenever people answer multiple choice questions as a form of studying, they'll just kind of go, oh, yep, that's the right answer. Okay, I got that right. That's right. I know everything. And then they get to the exam and they realize they actually don't know as much as they need to about this question. So in the learning guide, as part of my introduction video, I actually give you a specific technique on how you want to make sure you know everything based on the questions that I've with intention created for you to make sure you can pass your exam in a learning guide. All right, so I give you the specific strategy. So look, my website actually looks a bit different now. This is before I edited it and made it look a bit more pretty. But anyway, head over to journeytocyber.com. You can get the learning guide. It's 55 Australian dollars. In US, I don't know if it's like half. You'll have to do the conversion. Or you can get the ultimate learning guide for $80, which also has clickable simulations for the exam objectives. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I also give you a spreadsheet to track your results, and I give you a specific study plan as well. I'll give you specific steps to follow. So look, guys, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. I'm going to make this content for every single exam objective for free on YouTube. You don't need the learning guide. I just if you want it, it's there. Now, down in the description and in the pinned comment, I'm going to put a link to my website, to the learning guide. I'm also going to put a link to a free exam, to a free practice exam that you can purchase. Not purchase, sorry. I swear that wasn't a Freudian slip. Not purchase. A free practice exam that you can download, which will have 90 multiple choice questions and anywhere from 2 to 3 performance-based questions. I can't remember, right? So if you want to see where you're at or get a look at, what you may potentially be in for, I've developed that all on my own, and that's free download. I'm charging you nothing for it. And, I'm just giving it away, basically. So look, guys, I will see you. Oh, let me do oh no. Yeah. I will see you. Let me do a smiley face, man. This'll do. I will see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, share with your friends if they're trying to study. And if you want my learning guide, journeytocyber.com. Okay. See you guys. Have a good one and good luck.